I hope everybody's got food and drink, and we will now start the somewhat formal part of the proceedings. So welcome to everybody. It's great that you have managed to come this afternoon. My name's Rupert Snell. I think I know pretty much everyone in this room. You may not recognize me with a tie on, but it's the same person underneath. I'm the director of the Hindi Urdu Flagship, and this is a really great day for us because after something like 3 years hard work, we are launching what is by far the most ambitious item of language teaching material that we have developed in the Hindi Urdu Flagship. So we're very, very proud to be able to share this with you at its launch. And my colleague Jishnu Shankar will be leading us through the website, which is very much his brainchild and baby. Before we do that, I'd like to welcome people here, naming some names and bringing out some people, and a few of our visitors and home team also will be speaking briefly about the significance of this website. So I'd like to actually start off by introducing the Hindi Urdu Flagship team. We're called HUF, sometimes for a good reason. We have, I can't see where everybody is, right at the back, in his usual modest place, Akbar Haider, who is in charge of our Urdu operation. Sarah Green towards the front here, dressed in green to be color-coded for. Selina here sitting over at the front, who is our program coordinator, and Jonathan, as ever, standing by the camera at the back. So this is our kind of main home team for the Hindi Urdu Flagship. And then we have several of our other instructors and teachers here. Shehnaz Hassan is sitting modestly again towards the back in the Urdu department over there. Gautami Shah is also, why is everyone sitting at the back row? I don't know what it is about this. Anyway, so the website that we're about to launch is a collaboration between HUF and New York University and Columbia University. And it's still, in a sense, in its early stages because there is a huge amount of potential for development further on if we get the funding. Just let that sentence hang in the air for a second. We have chosen health and medicine as an appropriate focus for this because we find that so many of the people who are studying Hindi Urdu have in some kind of way, some kind of connection to those issues in the subcontinent. And we felt that it was an excellent starting point as a focus for some high-level language teaching material. And it's really, really good to see some of our students here, both HUF students and other students of Hindi and Urdu in the department. These guys are the real reason we're here in the first place. So thank you also for those people for coming here. Now, the Hindi Urdu Flagship is part of the language, a nationwide initiative to further and advance the teaching of strategic languages at undergraduate level in universities, and I think there are some 26 currently language flagships. We have 2 here in UT, not only the Hindi Urdu Flagship, but as probably most of you know, the Arabic Flagship also. And we're very happy indeed to have the language flagship, the national, at the national level, represented by its director, Dr. Sam Eisen, who will be speaking to us briefly, and also by Sharon Nishizaki, who runs flagship business at the Institute of what is it now? IIE. Institute of International Education. Thank you. So Sam and Sharon so love their UT flagships that they made a specific request, could they please fly in on Valentine's Day? And we were happy to go along with that. And it also happens to be the time of the year and the time of the cycle when we're just applying for our next 3-year grant to run from this summer until 2015. So if you get a chance to, please be astonishingly nice to these 2 people. The Hindi Urdu Flagship has also had tremendous support within the university. From the Department of Asian Studies, which is our kind of parent body, And the chair of Asian Studies is here, Professor Martha Selby, who will be speaking to us briefly in a few moments. And we have, I don't know what the collective noun for deans is, but we have several deans here present. Dean Richard Flores will be speaking to us about his perspectives on the Flagship initiative within the College of Liberal Arts. We've also had terrific support from LAITS, the Liberal Arts Instructional Technology Services, who are also here in strength, I'm happy to say, and Jishnuji will be introducing them personally when he comes up in a few moments' time. Another institution within UT is something whose name is not particularly one to roll off the tongue and whose acronym doesn't help much either. This is the Center for Open Educational Resources and Language Learning. CERL? I don't know how to say that quite. COERLL. But its director has a simpler name, which is Carl Blythe. And his entire operation has been such an inspiration for all of us who are trying to do something in developing language teaching materials for the web. And it's great that Carl could be here today to give us the perspective from the curl angle. So here's what we're going to do. Several of the people I have just mentioned are going to come up very kindly and speak to us briefly about their perspective on this launch. And then we're going to see a 9-minute video, which is something which will be housed at the front of the website and gives an overview of what the website is trying to do and also tells you something about the Hindi-Urdu Flagship program. And then Jishnuji, who's the star of the show, will come up and, with technical help from various people in the room, will guide us through the website and show us some sample videos and so forth. So without further ado, I would invite Dr. Samuel Eisen to come up and speak to us from the language flagship perspective. Sam, there are steps up this way, or you can take a manly leap up from there. Wow. I thought I was joking. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm very glad to have made it out to Austin for this event, and thanks for the beautiful respite from winter. It's appreciated. Want to say congratulations from the Language Flagship, and also on behalf of our director, Mike Nugent, for the launch. I guess it's not the completion because you're going to keep development, but for the launch of this website project that we have been, I guess, helping out on with the Collaborative Innovation Grant through the Language Flagship for the last several years. I just wanted to say, sort of generally, that the Language Flagship is part of a much larger program and movement. The National Security Education Program is a program within the Department of Defense that was sponsored by legislation 20 years ago by Senator David Boren, now president of the University of Oklahoma. And the idea of the Boren legislation was to create a pipeline of professionals, of graduate students with high-level language proficiency, with experience in the regions of the world, with overseas cultural immersion, to come back and to be able to fill key positions in government, of course, business, development, and other fields. And I think UT Austin has been incredibly supportive of this project and this mission. The Language Flagship started 10 years ago as mostly a graduate overseas model and is now specifically an undergraduate model. The last 5 years we've been developing this undergraduate model. And the Hindi-Urdu program here is the only Hindi-Urdu program in the country, so it's a very important program for us. We're trying to cover a number of critical languages. We have a number of institutions teaching Chinese. We have a group teaching Arabic with very good participation and leadership from the UT Arabic Flagship. And we have a number of Russian programs, and then we're covering, we've expanded the number of languages. We've added this year Portuguese and Turkish, and we also teach Persian, Korean, and Swahili at institutions around the country. And so we have this program, and the opportunity now that we're faced with is that we've been merged. Our National Security Education Program has actually been merged in the Defense Department with the Defense Language Office. The Defense Language Office is the office that oversees policy and coordination for all the language training and assessment and language needs of all the services and the Defense Language Institute and everything that goes on in that language training, which actually is a huge operation because the Department of Defense, with 3 million people, is the largest consumer of language training, certainly in this country. I don't know in the world, but certainly in this country it's the largest consumer. And so we're now able, despite the fact that everybody is facing a budget crisis, we're going to be able to do cooperative projects with our new colleagues on language proficiency assessment and language materials and language maintenance, so that when we have a project like this and a product like this, Language for Health, we will actually be able to talk to our colleagues who are concerned about training across the government, in DoD and across the government, and trying to pool these resources so that I would imagine that this website will not only be useful in academia, but this is a tremendous resource for the development people who are actually working on global health issues. And across the government, if CDC or USAID wants to provide training for their people, these are the kinds of resources that can all be brought together. I just want to say that Flagship, what's special about the Flagship is that there's an emphasis on professional language ability. So we're testing people, there's rigorous assessment, we're making sure that people are getting up to advanced and superior levels, which means that they can use professional language across fields, whether it's in health, sciences, political science, and this is really this is unique because we're going beyond the language and literature model. I was a language and literature specialist for the first part of my career, and what we're doing is moving beyond that so that we can really provide professional training. And I think this website will be a resource that will not only be useful here, but help colleagues across the nation who are actually engaged in Hindi Urdu to provide that higher level language material in developing the pipeline of folks who can actually work in Hindi Urdu. So with that, I will stop and just say thanks to everyone for hosting us here at UT Austin. We're very glad to have the chance to come visit, learn more about the Hindi Urdu program after this event.
I was a little nervous at Sam's glance at me when he mentioned budget cuts. Body language is everything. But in that context, I'd like to now introduce Dean Richard Flores, who will come and speak to us from the context of liberal arts. You can take the easy route. Thank you.
Thank you, Rupert. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for being here this afternoon for this really important and celebratory event I'd like to thank Sam and Sharon for being here and for partnering with the university. As you know, these kinds of events, both the Flagship program and the Hindi Urdu Flagship, as well as the Arabic Flagship, take a lot of time, a lot of commitment, and a lot of vision to make happen. And I think folks in Washington and here at the university, some of whom are in this room, have actually put in that time. It's been their ideas, it's been their vision, and it's been their commitment that has brought all of this to fruition. And I'm, not only talking about Rupert, but Herman is here, the first director of the Flagship. Carl working with Coral and its predecessor, working with technology and language, all the LAITS staff, and Joe Tenbarge and the work they've been doing for years in terms of language technology. And then at the federal and national level, the work Sam and Sharon and others, Mike Nugent and Bob Slater before him, have done to bring the idea of the Flagship into reality. When that vision first was being discussed at the university, it was easy for UT to see this as a way to partner with the Flagship program. Language, as many of you know, has been a real important entity for the college. We take pride in our language instruction, and for those of you who haven't heard, Dean Randy Deal often says that liberal arts, or the College of Liberal Arts, is really about the teaching of culture. And if you're about teaching culture, you have to understand and know language. And so he's dedicated to the instruction and learning of language. And so this has been a really important part of the college's mission, in spite of budget cuts. We believe that this is really important and critical. The Flagship program, and Huff in particular, we know are not just about teaching students language, and those of you who are students, you know this too. It's really about transforming students, and it's about opening up intercultural dialogues across the globe. You're going abroad, you're learning from people in their native countries. You are ambassadors, both not only for the university in the United States, but you're ambassadors for a new type of citizen, one who is engaged in many ways, one who's connected to local people, one who knows language, culture, history. And that's really an amazing, amazing task. So we're not just here about training people to learn a language. We're here about, I think, transforming individuals and little by little opening up dialogues that we know, just by looking at daily world events, are so critically needed. So thank all of you for being here, and it's really exciting to launch this website today. Thank you.
And I'd like to invite my boss, I guess, the chair of Asian Studies Department, Professor Martha Selby, who not everybody here will perhaps know her work. She works in Sanskrit and Tamil. And amongst her various specialties, she is a specialist in the history of medicine in India. This doesn't mean to say you should go to her office hours with a grazed knee or a headache, but I guess probably of all the people in the room, she knows more about the history of the subject that we're talking about today than anybody. So Martha, it's a great privilege and pleasure to welcome you. Thank you.
I'll be very brief. Thank you, Rupert. I'd like to welcome you all to this event, and I would also like to extend a warm welcome to Sam and Sharon, our visitors from Washington. This particular initiative of the Hindi Urdu Flagship is of special interest to me. One of the research hats that I wear, as Rupert just mentioned, is that of an historian of medicine in South Asia. And while we can all appreciate the practical and more urgent aspects of this particular program, I would also like to draw your attention to its more scholarly aspects and applications as well. Historians and anthropologists of medicine in South Asia are constantly confronted by new manifestations of older forms of healthcare in different language and idiomatic contexts. And it is crucial for our new generation of scholars to learn how to effectively communicate with living practitioners And just as an example of this, I am also language committee chair for the American Institute of Indian Studies. And over the years, I've also been involved in the Critical Language Scholarship Indic program for the U.S. Department of State. And while on a recent site visit in Chandigarh to the CLS Punjabi program, the invited monolingual visitor of the day was a medical doctor. He was specializing in biomedicine. And it was really quite a hilarious situation. Here were 5 or 6 students who were already quite fluent in Punjabi. And in walks this very distinguished doctor who sits down and immediately starts addressing the students in English. And all of the American students begin to chide him, saying, "We're here to speak to you in Punjabi, please, please." So he had to sit there and think for a minute, and then began this very interesting conversation with the students in Punjabi. But I have also seen our students work in various contexts with traditional medical practitioners who are often invited to our programs, who are true monolinguals, and it's fascinating to observe such exchanges, and just absolutely wonderful. And that, in my opinion, is really where the goals and purposes of the flagship really come together. I would also like to note that over the years, I have sat on panels for various funding agencies, and the current trends in fieldwork are towards matters of public health and interfaces between old and new medical expressions in practice, as well as very interesting confrontations between Euro-America and South Asia in the fields of biomedicine and more traditional forms. I am very grateful to the flagship, and especially to Dr. Jishnu Shankar, for taking this project on, and I would like to wish it every success. Thank you.
Finally, before we come to Jishnuji, Professor Carl Blythe, who is who's not sure whether he's ready to come up here or not, is, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, a great inspiration to us, because the center of which he is the director has produced such a range of different kinds of cutting-edge language teaching facilities of one kind and another. It's very well worth going onto his website. I don't know if he's going to do a brief commercial at the same time, to see all that is available in French and Spanish and so many other languages. And knowing that facility has been there on campus has been really wonderful to us in our work in Huff. So Carl, thank you very much.
Thank you, Rupert. Rupert told me, so now you know that I'm Carl for coral. Coral, I don't think it's that difficult to pronounce, but apparently it is. And actually, we have done a little interview with students here on campus with our acronym, asking people, how do you pronounce it? And we're going to turn it into a publicity, a little clip, because it's really quite funny. Coral, Carl. I didn't know I was naming it after myself, because many people said Carl, here being in Texas. But anyhow, CORAL stands for the Center for Open Educational Resources and Language Learning. Pronounce it any way you like. And the most important part, of course, is the vowel, and that stands for open. And it has a tie-in with this site here today. But when Rupert asked me to speak, he said, I want you to keep it short, keep it brief. And I thought of 3 bullet points that came to my mind. He said, don't shoot them with your bullet points, just talk about it. And I got a little nervous because I immediately thought of our governor, who had difficulty remembering three bullet points. And so I took a page out of Sarah Palin's handbook and wrote the 3 bullet points on my hand. And they are 3. Adaptive. I looked at this website last night, and it's a beautiful website. I congratulate all of you who have been working so hard for the past 3 years. It's beautiful in design, it's beautiful in content, it all comes together. But what I'd like to say is A, it is adaptive, and it's collaborative, and it's, of course, open. And all of those those adjectives really kind of come together. There's this harmonic convergence, I think, in the field of foreign language education. By adaptive, what I mean is, and this is a recent, I think, kind of movement within foreign language education. You've probably heard of languages for special purposes. So the idea of teaching, coming up with new ways of teaching our languages and looking, well, here the idea of health is an obvious way to get outside the classroom and to elaborate then on our traditional curricula. The notion of adaptive, of course, is that our societies are constantly changing. And in this global society, we need to adapt. We meet on the internet. It's easy to meet the cultural other everywhere nowadays on our campus. So the idea of adaptive is more than just special purposes. It's really adapting to a social environment that's constantly changing. And that's this. It's adaptive. The second bullet point then is it's both collaborative and contentful, so my C. I once had a talk with somebody who said, you know, they were interested, they came to Coral and they said they wanted to do a large-scale kind of, something like you've done in French and in Spanish, an online course. And I started talking about how we've developed these materials, which was highly collaborative, working with lots of different people, and I could see their eyes kind of glaze over. They weren't all that interested. And I said, well, you need a collaborative team to produce really good content. The content needs to be authoritative, it needs to be current, it needs to be all those things. But if you don't have good content, then I don't care how beautiful it is. But the other thing I've also learned in working with these websites is if you click on, let's say, the About button, and you look at the credits, I mean, there's usually an author team when you think of a textbook, but these sites are very complex, and they have layers of different people who are all interacting. So we have web designers, we have graphic designers, we have people who are doing coding behind the scenes, we have people who are contributing all kinds of course, the cultural and language content. Sometimes it's a pedagogical person. So there are lots of different, in fact, that's what I like best about these projects is you get to get outside of your silo and talk to many different people on this campus. But this is collaborative not only within UT, it's not just the Flagship and let's say Liberal Arts Instructional Technology Services, but it's also UT and NYU and Columbia. So there's collaboration, wide-scale collaboration. And finally, O, it's open. And what I mean by that is an open educational resource is something that we do for the greater good. We as a university create scholarship. It was just framed in terms of scholarship. And this is applied scholarship, right? And we're giving it away to the world. What starts here changes the world. So all those are my 3 bullet points, and I remembered all of them. It's adaptive, it's collaborative, and it's open, and it's beautiful. So I really salute you. You brought honor to all of us in the foreign language technology community. Great work.
Many thanks to our speakers. We're now going to have the video, which is 9 minutes long, I believe. And then after that, Jishnuji will come up and talk us through the website. The Hindi-Urdu Flagship program gives us a tremendous opportunity to develop resources for the studying and teaching of these 2 languages. And for those of us who've been working in this field for quite a long time, it's a very exciting opportunity. And especially when we see something as innovative as the Language for Health program, we feel very glad that we've been given this opportunity. The Language Flagship funds a number of different flagship programs throughout the country, approximately 24 in number, and they are typically in languages like Arabic and Korean and Chinese. And here at the University of Texas at Austin, we have 2 flagships. We have the Hindi-Urdu flagship and an Arabic flagship. So in the Hindi-Urdu flagship, we teach Hindi and Urdu, these 2 sister languages, side by side in parallel to undergraduate students who take it as a 4-year program, and they spend their 3rd year studying at a specially designed intensive program in India. So it's 4 years with 1 year in India. So the internet has become a really natural resource for us to develop materials, partly because it's part of our mandate to develop learning and teaching materials for the wider audience, for people wherever they may be studying Hindi and Urdu, and partly because it's for a long time been the need of the hour, so to speak, to move beyond just written, published text resources and to develop things which can help people become really proficient as listeners and speakers of the language. So the kinds of live materials that we can develop through the web have been an essential part of this, and it's something we've spent quite a lot of effort on. This is the context in which the Language for Health initiative has become so important. And although we have done a number of different things in various different kinds of media, this is by far our most ambitious project to date.
One of the goals of the Language Flagship is to build bridges between the university and the government and the business and the NGOs. So by building this website, we are opening ourselves for this kind of bridge building so that doctors, researchers, as well as NGOs, besides our students, can use this website fruitfully. We went to India and we conducted a number of interviews with various kinds of doctors in urban areas and rural areas, with Ayurvedic doctors, with allopathic doctors, with Unani doctors. And we tried to capture how they interact with their patients, how they diagnose them, how do they prescribe their medication, what is their nature of interaction with males, what is their interaction with females, and so forth. And then, based on those video shoots, we developed clips which have their transcripts, which have their word lists, and which have got exercises associated with them. So this makes for a basic module for a language lesson which is focused on medicine. So in a sense, the video, the word lists, the exercises, and the transcripts, they make for a very comprehensive pedagogical module for learning language as well as culture. So when we were applying for funding for this project, we decided to make it as collaborative as possible. So we contacted our colleagues at New York University and Columbia University, and then came up with a plan of what this project would look like. And I was particularly enthused by the medical aspect of it because several of our students pursue the medical field.
Being a student in the Flagship is hard work. It's an intensive program. We deliberately make it so. We have a lot of ground to cover. But also we give a great deal of support. The student-staff ratio is extremely favorable. People get a lot of personal attention. The classes are small. They get all kinds of practice and, I would say, privileges in their learning experience. And there's also the, I think, rather special feature of being part of a quite small program within a very large university. So there's almost a kind of family feeling, a very strong feeling of identity within the program. And I think that it counts for a lot in terms of the student experience. It certainly helps them through the rigors of the program to know that they have a great deal of support from staff and faculty and fellow students. Well, all of our students, apart from taking the Hindi-Urdu Flagship, are also pursuing their own majors. And many students, for example, are interested in business. Some have the intention of going to government service after graduating. Others may want to work in NGOs or in the health field. So we have a number of different career paths that our students are following. And we try and help them develop those even while they're still studying here. For example, in our year in India, our overseas year, which is the third year of their 4-year program, they all pursue professional internships, working in Hindi, Urdu speaking contexts, and hopefully pursuing areas that they're interested in getting into themselves when it comes to graduating and entering a professional life.
And then once I began to develop the video clips and the assignments associated with it and the exercises, I realized how invaluable a resource it becomes, especially in the field of Hindi and Urdu, where we are always trying to develop new live resources which are non-text based, so students can actually use them in their normal real lives. I was completely sold to the project. Clearly, if one is a language student, they would need to be of a certain level before they can make full use of the lessons on the website, because this is a website which has clips from interviews which are spoken in colloquial manner. And so a student would have to be, say, advanced mid and above to make full use of it. But then there are so many variations and registers and dialects associated with all those video clips that a good student would be able to make immense use of them. So that is as far as teaching our students is concerned. When it comes to NGOs, those NGOs who are already functioning with Hindi and Urdu will have no problems working with the material over here, or government organizations or business organizations who have designated individuals to work with Hindi and Urdu for research purposes or for other kinds of in-house communication purposes will find no difficulty using this website.
There are a number of different universities teaching these languages that have developed some excellent online resources. To my knowledge, this is the only one which addresses specifically the health and medicine context.
Health and medicine is one socio-cultural aspect of human life which actually transcends all politics. And yes, our website brings this out very at a very elemental level, how people interact with their medical practitioners, even if they are of different religions or of different languages.
One of the functions of our website is to reach out to everybody who's interested in the fundamentals of this project, who is interested in seeing Hindi and Urdu being taught and being studied to higher levels. And we welcome contact with all sorts of people from business and from other educational institutions who would like to share in this project, and we look forward to hearing from them.
Thank you very much, Rupert Ji, and thanks to all of you for participating in the launch of our website, helping us do so. My task is really easy and fun. You already know that now it is a collaborative project. We have collaborated with New York University and Columbia, besides our own in-house departments and teams, whom I will introduce at the end of my presentation. I had asked my colleagues at NYU and Columbia to send me a video message for today's program, and they said, no, you guys are too much on technology. We will do something more useful. We will send you a bulleted list on how one can use this website in the classroom. And I said, great, do that. So Gabriela sent that to me, who is my colleague at NYU, and I will be incorporating her suggestions during my presentation here today. So let's begin from the home page. This is our main page. You have already seen a video right now, so I will not click on the video over there, but I'll go scroll down a little bit and show you that we have got various categories which have been populated by interview clips. So we had video shoots by a professional team in India, and then we chopped those interviews into topic-specific categories and then built the exercises and transcripts and so forth, vocabulary lists based on those. So what I will do is I will show you 5 examples of these video clips. They are all very short, except for the last one, which doesn't have too much conversation. So all those of you who do not understand Hindi and Urdu do not need to get worried. And then I will explain to you how it can be used in the classroom. So our first video clip is about how to identify herbs which are used in Ayurvedic medicinal preparation.
हाँ जी, ये आंवला है जो आयुर्वेद की प्रमुख चीज़ है। तो इससे आयुर्वेद चलता है। जैसे त्रिफला बनाते हैं हमें, हरड़ आंवला, आंवला प्रमुख चीज़ है, ये एक रसायन चीज़ है और इससे त्रिफला बनने से हमारे पेट के समस्त रोगों को ठीक करता है। और इससे भृंगराज तेल में भी भृंगराज तेल बनाते हैं, जैसे बाल काले करने के लिए प्रमुख चीज़ और गर्मी को दूर करता है। परमे के रोग हैं जितने, दांत सपन दोष वगैरह, उसके लिए एक ये प्रमुख चीज़ है। आंवला एक रसायन चीज़ है, ये आयुर्वेद की सबसे प्रमुख औषधि है। तो इससे आंवले का मुरब्बा भी बनाते हैं जो एक टॉनिक के रूप में काम आता है। हाँ जी।
So if we click on the vocabulary button on the right hand side, which says vocabulary Hindi, it brings up the vocabulary associated in this clip. And then if we click on the transcription on the left hand side under the video, this is a transcription of what the Vaidyaji, the Ayurvedic doctor, is speaking. And then just beneath that is exercises, and double clicking on that will give you the answer to the questions which have been prepared over here. So we are very proud of the fact that ours is probably the only website which is in both Hindi and Urdu languages, and I'll show you in a minute how that functions, but that it is also a confluence of, it's largely content-based website which intersects with culture as well as language, because as you can see, we couldn't take all our students out to the fields to show them the amla herbs, but we were able to bring the Vaidyaji into our classroom. Okay, the next video clip is, again, Vaidyaji is sitting in his, shall we say, doctor's office. This is a rural scene. This is where he looks at his patients, this is where he talks to them, and this is where he explains to us in Hindi again, but in a very rural Haryanvi dialect register of how an Ayurvedic doctor examines the patient and diagnoses by examining the pulse.
ये वायु की नाड़ी है जो, ये सर्प की ढाल चलह से सर्प की चाल चलती है। वायु की नाड़ी, वात की नाड़ी है जो, ये लिखा ना करशांगाश बोले या दमदी जी साक्षी तचेष्या सुखम दुखम के कार्य से नाड़ी पढ़ते ही, ये नाड़ी है जो, नाड़ी धते मूर्त को पे जलों का सर्पयोगतम, वायु की नाड़ी जोक और सर्प की तरह चलती है ऐसे।
It is extremely interesting that the Vaidyaji, the Ayurvedic doctor, describes the movement of the pulse by using examples of natural elements. This kind of an ailment has movement like that of a snake. That kind of an ailment has movement like that of a crow hopping. This kind of an ailment has a frog leaping and all that sort of stuff. And the interesting cultural note is that when we moved to the Unani system, which is where a Hakim Sahab, who is a Unani doctor, describes, he also uses similar kind of principles as are used in Ayurveda. They are present in the Unani, and with the additional step that while an Ayurvedic doctor can diagnose a disease or usually diagnoses a disease by checking one pulse, Unani Hakims do that by examining pulse in both the hands. So,
ये बताएं कि आप अगर आप कंपैरिजन करें, अगर आप देखें तो यूनानी दवाओं का जो इलाज है जी और जो बाकी जो पैथियाँ हैं जी, उनमें क्या फ़र्क आपको नज़र आता है?
यूनानी पैथी में और एलोपैथिक और यूनानी पैथी जो है वो नेचुरल है, मिजाज के मुताबिक है ना, और इनका कोई साइड इफ़ेक्ट रिएक्शन नहीं है। लेकिन एलोपैथिक में जो है एक उनकी दवाएं जो हैं ज़रा सा भी उसमें अगर कमी बेशी हो तो उनका साइड इफ़ेक्ट और रिएक्शन भी बहुत है।
So this is a common refrain in a lot of our interviews from the doctors as well as from the patients. And we have several video clips about why do certain patients prefer Ayurvedic or Unani treatments over allopathic. And one common idea is that while allopathy treats you by suppressing the symptoms, Ayurvedic and Unani cure you right from the root. Okay, so this is what the Hakim Sahab is voicing also. But once again, let's click on, say, for example, vocabulary. Those of you who are studying Urdu or want to do research in Urdu, all that you have to do is go up there, click on Urdu, even while the video clip is playing, and voila, it turns into Urdu. So also with transcription, and so also with exercises. So you can switch between languages on the fly, and I'm proud to say we are the only website, as far as I know, who has this facility for this kind of a content, and kudos to our home team for developing this. This is amazing. And then, of course, we have certain video clips which show doctor-patient interaction. This one is about preference for the Unani system. Again, a very short clip, and the lady in there, who is a patient, describes why she prefers Unani medication over allopathic medication.
अपना नाम बताएं आप कहाँ से आए हैं?
नसीम अंसारी, न्यूजीलैंड।
तो कितने वक्त से आप डॉक्टर साहब के पास आ रही हैं?
20 साल हो गए हैं। अपनी बड़ी इसको हुमा को लेकर आई थी, बड़ी बेटी को, तो सबसे पहले।
तो 20 साल से आप डॉक्टर साहब के पास आ रही हैं, इसकी वजह क्या है?
So, as far as dealing with the culture content is concerned in the class, certainly these kinds of simple clips can be used with great facility at the intermediate or the advanced levels for interpretive tasks or interpersonal tasks, or for producing various kinds of reports or opinions or hypotheses. But for folks who are interested in doing research, these kinds of clips, and we have several of them, also contrast the religious element, where the Ayurvedic doctor is more likely to be, though not exclusively, a Hindu person, and also a Hakim with a certain religious preference, as well as their clientele. Who goes to these folks? Are these only Hindus visiting Ayurvedic doctors and Muslims visiting Unani doctors, or is there a crossover and stuff like that? So we have got several clips which explain issues of this kind also, very good for research. And then the last clip, which is about doctor-patient interaction in a semi-urban setting.
चंद्रपाल, उम्र कितनी है?
60 साल।
क्या दिक्कत है भैया आपको? अरे खोलो मत, कैसे हुआ ये? खोलो मत भाई, कैसे हुआ?
ये इन दिनों में आँखों भरता है। इन दिनों में आँखों भरता है सर्दी में।
अच्छा, तो अभी क्या लगाया हुआ है इसमें?
ये तो दवाई बांधी थी, पट्टी की हुई।
क्या दवाई बांधी?
So this conversation continues for some time. The clip is about 5 minutes long, where she writes the prescription and explains to him how to go get the medication, how to use it, and so forth. So we don't need to go through the whole of it, but it shows simple conversational interactions, whether it's with little children, the doctor speaks in a different way, whether it's with old women who really can't hear very well, and the doctor speaks in a certain way. So it's very good for a cultural insight into these kinds of doctor-patient relations. If we go up on the page, you will also see the button called Resources, where we are putting information which could be articles or websites or other documentation on different systems of medication for which we have got copyright. These are materials which we have not prepared ourselves, but we do have the permission to present them, and these are relevant to our website. And this is one area which can be augmented continuously as we get new resources. for all the students who want to do further study or further research. So we have divided it into various categories, and as we procure more items, this should correlate quite nicely with the categories we have on our homepage. And then we have, once again, when we go up, the video index, which has a list of all the videos that are on the website. Currently, I think more than 125, 130. And these also, since we are trying to improve user experience continuously, we will also change these into categories so that it will be way more easier to find out the number of videos pertaining to a certain topic. So I think Rupert ji had mentioned in the beginning that the website is almost done, and yes, it is almost done in terms of the structure and functionality. But in terms of content, we do have a lot of film footage to process, to cut into clips, to get the transcripts, to get the vocabulary lists made, to develop the exercises and so forth. And we will be developing these over the coming months and hopefully coming year also. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our home team, the excellent and wonderful people without whom this website would not have become a reality. And I would love to introduce Emily Cicchini and Ming Gong. So Emily has been the project manager for our website, and I would invite Emily to come and speak to us. And Ming Gong, Ming is our technical lead, who is also, he developed the site, and he was very artistic about how he constructed it. And then I said, Ming, how would you like to be introduced? And he says, just call me the technical lead. So Ming is the technical lead, but he is a master programmer also. Thank you, Ming and Emily.
Thank you. Congratulations. This has been a really wonderful project. I'm Emily Cicchini. I'm a special project manager at LAITS. This project was adopted in 2009, and LAITS is a team of over 35 professional technicians, programmers, a wonderful server team that makes sure this stuff is live 24/7, ongoing, very well protected, that's led by Assistant Dean Joe Tenbarge, who is the best boss in the world to work for. I have to tell you, it's true. And being a project manager, when this project came in, it was called a strategic project because it was sort of in between our normal grant cycle at the time. But Jishnu came in with these wonderful videos that he had already had produced from India, and I had been working with Carl on some projects, and I knew the value of this authentic material, that this wasn't going to come across our pike every day. There was a lot of people that worked on this. So I want to give credit to DIA, which is now the Center for Teaching and Learning, which had a fast text program, which did a lot of the pre-processing and editing of the video and transferring from PAL to a format that we could put on the web. We had everybody in our team really contributed something. Saloni Robertson, who runs our STA program. We had STAs working on a lot of the graphics on here. Sarah Medina, who graduated and moved on from our STA program, did a lot of collaboration with Ming on the graphics. And Ming really was the technical lead, and people don't understand how important it is and how persistent we all had to be to figure out how to get all this material on the web in such a way that it put the text with the video in a way that would be understandable. I think we learned a lot from Coral and all the projects that Coral were, and I tried to be a go-between to make sure that Jishnu knew what other models to be aware of. But also, Jishnu, you just worked so hard on this and were so persistent. And the scope of these projects, when you're a faculty member, you have so many other things to do. His persistence, really is what made it. So let me see, Daniel with the video. Is there anybody else that I forgot? I hope not. But Ming, if you all have any technical questions about the website, we would be happy to answer those. But I think we're going to open it up for general question and answers, which I'm sure you're more interested in maybe hearing what Jishnu has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily. And so, yes, we are now open for questions. cultural, content, pedagogical, or technical. Yes?
I'm interested in how you got this content. You shot. Who
Yes.
shot the video actually?
Yes.
How did they get permission? How did you set it up?
Right.
That kind of thing.
Okay, so this is where our collaboration with Columbia University comes in, because my good friend Rakesh Ranjan, who is also very active with the AIIS in India, he knows a lot of people in India, and one of his collaborators is a professional documentary filmmaker. So we contacted him, got the budget, got the okays from the sponsored programs, and then we funded him, and they went on 2 different film shoots. And they are professional filmmakers, so they actually did a great job of it.
That's why I was asking, because I could tell. So
Yes.
yeah.
And then I had already talked to some people in our LAITS department with whom I was working earlier to figure out, hey, what kind of a camera should they use? What kind of a format can we handle and so forth. So I was told certain things, and they made it. They did a great job of it. When I came over here, when they sent the tapes to me, we found out that it was a different format. But that's where our home team comes in, and they went in there, they converted the video footage, and there may have been some loss of quality, I don't know, but you really cannot tell. So this is excellent professional footage. The composition is great, the questions are all professional, and I don't know if I mentioned or not, this is all unscripted. So they were able to talk naturally and get very authentic material in a very professional manner. Yes?
Thank you. I really like the website, especially because my interesting and pedagogical also. But I had one question about the areas. So are the videos from certain did you say Haryana areas? Because let's say if we go to Lucknow, let's say, would it be different in terms of, let's say if I wanted to research for healthcare field in those areas in different parts of India. So how incorporated, I guess, is it for other different regions of India?
Thank you, Ramu. Yes, great question. We have tried to incorporate as many variations of Hindi, spoken Hindi, dialects and registers as we can in a 2-shoot project. So you are absolutely correct in thinking that this, for example, the Vaidyaji who was talking is from a rural area, from the adjacent state of Haryana to Delhi, and his Hindi definitely carries dialectical impressions of Haryanavi, his pronunciation, the choice of his words and such. And that's rural Haryanavi dialect. Then you come to some Hakims who are right in the heart of Delhi, in the Lajpat Nagar area, and they have got very good Urdu, but the register is somewhat different, and it's standardized Hindi Urdu. Then we had a whole different film shoot with the doctors and patients in the Gorakhpur area. So we do have variations from west to east in the way people speak Hindi language. Clearly in a project of this kind, it was not our intention to do a complete survey of all the variation in Hindi, but it demonstrates very clearly the kinds of dialectical influences or registers that you can get, depending upon whether you are on the west side of the country or the east side of the country.
Does the Urdu transcription, is it able to follow exactly what's in the tape, or are there vocabulary differences and other differences? How does that work for a language learner?
Very good question. So when we had begun with the website, our idea was that, okay, we are doing the interviews in Hindi, and the first transcriptions were also in Hindi, so it will be a cinch for us to simply translate it all into Urdu, since, as Rupert ji said, these are sister languages, and the register is fairly similar. But then when our colleagues at NYU began to process it for the Urdu parts, our Urdu professors over there, Tahira Naqvi and others, they said, you know what, you will never say this in Urdu the way it is being said in Hindi. So there are certain clips where the transcription is different, but by and large, it is an exact script replica of what is being spoken, and Hindi and Urdu follow very closely. There are certain cultural elements which are changed for Urdu, but not by much.
Do you have any plans to do some shoots in Pakistan, where the Urdu would be quite different from the Urdu of India?
Absolutely, Patrick. In fact, when we had begun with the idea, I believe we were toying with that idea. But then, of course, there is a State Department ban on our doing anything like that. So in the foreseeable future, as long as that ban remains, we cannot do that. But it would be a wonderful project to get that authentic register from Pakistan into our project. Let's see how it develops.
Could you not get local collaboration so that somebody just from here doesn't have to go?
That's a very good idea. I don't think we have thought on those lines, and I already have a volunteer right there. so there is scope there, definitely. Well, do we have more questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, thank you. And if not, then back to Rupert.
We have to whisk Sam and Sharon onto their next gig, so we will have to call an end to this session right now. Thanks everybody for coming. You can see the truly collaborative nature of this work, and so many people, especially many people in this room, Ming and Emily and so many other people have been absolutely at the heart of the project, and I cannot express my thanks enough to these people. The best way we can thank them, I guess, is by going home and looking at the website and exploring it and seeing exactly what's there. Maybe pick up some health tips. Although I think in an emergency, still dial 911.
There's a very request here.
You have something for budgetary heartburn.
I refer that question to my learned colleague. Before you go, please take lots of food. This is all Ayurvedically approved food. And again, thanks everybody very much for coming and for making this such a grand launch for our website. And most of all, thank you, Jishnuji.